Chris Rogan, and I'd like to say welcome back to Focus on the Arts. Because if you saw the interview we did with Joe Longstreth, you know that I didn't get enough. And that this man who I adore has more to offer and more to tell us about his past and certainly his present, which is changing all the time. So Joe Longstreth is again our guest on Focus on the Arts. Thanks for letting us stay. We're just going to set camp up and spend the afternoon here.
No, you can't. I have an appointment.
Oh, you do? You're so busy.
Yes,
You're
I am busy.
So busy.
I keep myself busy. There's something I didn't say.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot I didn't say, and there's
I know,
a lot
that's
I
why
won't
we're
say.
back.
I do live by aphorisms. I find that they make it possible for me to drive down a road and know where I'm going. I do like it. Who was it that Yogi Berra said, go to the crossroad and then take it?
Yes.
Or
Right,
go to the
right.
Y in the road and then take it. I like it. But I love the serenity prayer. I change it, however. It's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, I cut God out of it, whatever one's feelings are about it. Why would anybody grant me anything? So I say to myself, Joe, delve deeply within yourself to find the serenity to accept the things you can, and the courage to change it. In other words, I put the onus on me. I'm
You're
not
right.
asking for somebody to give me anything, because I don't deserve. Why would anybody give me anything?
Well, when it comes right down to it, all you really have is you.
That's right.
Is you.
No. So we try to make the most of it.
Don't you ever? I would find your words of wisdom so helpful.
Oh, that's
if I
not
didn't
words
know
of wisdom.
You, if
I didn't write the
know
bloody
you,
prayer.
If I didn't know you, I would love to understand what has made you. You're happy. You're
I am
successful.
happy.
You've been unhappy. You've been
Successful,
unsuccessful.
what is success?
Right.
I don't know. How much do I have in the bank? You might be quite shocked.
Well, you had a quote in here that said something about it's not worth anything unless you give it away.
That's right.
That's why.
Not much is worth much value. That's true of things. I do like things. I take joy in paintings. I take joy in possessions. But I know that I am their caretaker.
For
I'm
the
not
moment.
their owner.
Right. That's a positive way.
I don't possess them. I enjoy them, almost tangentially.
Yeah. That's how people are to you in your life too, isn't it?
Sure. I would not wish to retain a friendship just because it had happened once. It has to develop. It has to increase in its intensity and its validity.
That's why I'm so happy to still be in your life.
You are.
That means
you always
that
will
there's
be, I
something
think.
unique and special. I'll tear up if I'm not careful.
Oh, don't tear
Speaking of things you've said, how about this? The snow.
Are you quoting me?
Yes, I'm going to.
Oh, that's
no,
dangerous.
no. I'm quoting a walrus.
Oh,
The snow is always whiter on the other side of the crevice. You stole that, said the walrus.
What was that?
The snow is always whiter on the other side of the crevice, said the walrus. To the penguin.
Yes.
A children's book.
Yes,
I bet there's lots of
penguins are
people
penguins.
that probably don't know you wrote children's books.
Well, I did, and I still might do another one. I've had an idea recently. I want to do another one. But I got in trouble over that book because you realize that walruses and penguins don't live in the same, one's Antarctic and one's Arctic.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
You didn't do your research.
I just liked the sight of the two of them together, so I took what is known as dramatic license.
I liked the moral story to it, that the penguin wanted to be somebody else. He wanted to be a polar bear, he wanted to be a walrus, he wanted to be everybody but a penguin, until the end when it was okay to be the penguin.
My first children's book was an accident, as many things in my life have been, but you have to take advantage of things when they come up. A publisher in New York had a picture of a lion, and they brought it to my apartment and said, what are we going to do? Look at this wonderful picture. But the lion has tears. We don't know what's the matter with him. I said, very simple. The lion has a tiger. The tiger, did I say lion?
Yes, okay.
I'm talking about tiger. The tiger has tears. I said, he has a tiger tizzy.
That's the name of a book.
I said, well, I'll write a book and tell you. So I wrote Tiger Tizzy.
And you wrote something about the 48+1, about the States of the Union at the time.
Doesn't it?
Yes,
because
it does. In the
was
50s you wrote that.
48 states, how the state got its name, how the capital city got its name.
Indiana Metropolis. I read that. They didn't like how that looked in writing. They put it in the middle of the state. The state was already named Indiana. A metropolis is a big city, but Indiana metropolis finally.
Too much. Became Indianapolis.
They're
They're
a nice way to
fascinating
learn.
stories, and if you think I remember, the +1, of course, is Washington, D.C.
Right, at the time.
If you think I remember all of that material, I don't even have a copy of that book. I don't have a copy.
That book.
I only have copies of one. I've a copy of one of my books.
And I was reading Little Big Feather, Big Little Feather.
Yes,
the little...
I had trouble with that book too. I wrote that as Lulu the Zulu. And I had the picture of this centerfold with this big black, wonderful, wonderful face with these exciting eyes, with a great big bone in her hair. And the idea was how she earned that bone.
The bone, yeah.
Well, the
was it politically incorrect at the time?
It was politically incorrect even then to have a black girl. I thought it was sad because I thought she was beautiful.
Well, sure, how ridiculous.
So I rewrote it as Little Big Feather, an Indian boy with a feather. I think Lulu the Zulu is still my favorite.
He kept wanting to earn the biggest feather until he
the
learned.
Biggest feather, yes.
There's a moral to that story too. Will you write a book for my children if you're going to write a book?
Sure.
Sit down and do that. I would love that.
I might. Do they know anything about dragons?
They love dragons.
Do they?
Dinosaurs and dragons. They're at that age.
I'm working on a book now. Because children's books are short, it
you
doesn't
could whip
mean
that off in the weekend.
You spend a great deal of time on every combination of words.
Yeah, to make it understandable.
No.
Well,
to make it do what you want it to do, and you don't know what
and to have a point to the story, not just a random section of
It's
words.
not like a soap opera where there's no point whatsoever, except ratings.
These books are in the library, by the way. That's where I found them. I was fascinated to go there and say, what do you have written
I'll have
by?
to go and read them.
But you know what is not there is your Carol Chessman.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
Cell
Tell us
2455, Death
about
Row,
that,
and all of the other books.
In case nobody knows. I've heard that story,
Well,
and it's
this
fascinating.
was a major factor in my life, and I left New York because of it and
Is that why?
came back home. Yes. Well, that was one of the factors. Carol was a good friend of mine, was in San Quentin. I didn't know him before he went, but through his book, his first book, which he sent to me in manuscript form, and then I edited the book and sold it for him and was his agent. I am also his literary executor under his will. I have all of his papers here.
But you
he
got
later
some
wrote
legal. 3
more books and then a novel. He was executed.
You got in some legal trouble for that, didn't you?
Oh, I was arrested and taken to California.
Cool.
I refused to go. I was here in Richmond, and I said I won't be extradited. So I had a hearing before the governor, and I spoke eloquently and
it
lost.
It worked.
No, it didn't work. They hauled me off to California.
Did you actually spend time in jail?
No, I was
this?
never in jail. I was photographed and everything, and there were wonderful articles about. Somebody from Indiana, there was no corn in this man, something. Anyway, it was a very elegant arrest. And the indictment was thrown. I was indicted together with Prentice Hall, the publisher, and George Davis, a lawyer, and myself. We were indicted for conspiracy to defraud the state of California of its income.
By getting the manuscripts out?
No, by taking the money which he earned.
Oh, okay.
And yet, before I ever touched the book, I was in touch with the governor, with the head of the Department of Corrections, and the warden of the prison to get permission to do it.
I would think you
to
would have...
see whether or not he had written them, to see whether or not he had the legal rights to negotiate contracts, whether or not he had the legal right to accept royalties and money, all of which the responses were positive. But because it was such a success,
they didn't expect that.
They didn't expect it. And then he was prohibited from writing, and the manuscripts continued to come out of the prison.
How did that happen?
That's never been determined.
I'm sure.
And
I thought it was interesting how he found you at all. He was reading a review of an opera libretto that you had written.
Yes, in New
There's
York.
a convict in California reading opera libretto reviews.
He was a fine musician.
Well, I mean, that seems like such a dichotomy to what he was, arrested for.
He was
he must have been
something of a Renaissance criminal.
And you found that fascinating, I'm sure.
He was a wonderful person.
But he was put to death.
Yes,
over
he was
this.
executed.
And that must have been...
He was tried and convicted under the Little Lindbergh Law, which was a law passed after the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped, justifiably probably. But he was the only person ever tried and convicted under the law. Before he was executed, the law was rescinded.
But
he was still executed under it.
Because he didn't really kill anybody, did he?
No,
he just
no,
kidnapped.
And,
I mean, not that that's just,
and
but...
there was an editorial in the Richmond newspaper sort of not very pleasant about my being associated with a murderer. So they certainly hadn't done their homework.
That's right.
Because he was not
a
murderer. Never was, it was never even suggested that he was a murderer.
You saw him. I mean, you had to see him.
Oh, I worked with him in San Quentin
and you liked
on the
him.
mansion.
You
Oh,
liked
yes,
him.
I liked him. Yes, we got along very, very
well.
well.
You were more interested in them saving his life and maybe studying why it is
the point is, here we
criminals
have,
do this.
Here we have a man who is extraordinarily articulate, who can and does know the criminal mind, the criminal world.
We learn something.
And we can learn
Yeah.
from him. When did he take this bent and why? What could have been done? At what point in his life could he have been salvaged? Could someone have reached him, and how? So what do? We destroy the possibility of learning.
And it sounds like he was so articulate. He
was. Read his books.
He could have...
Extraordinarily articulate. I had to cut 3 adjectives out of every sentence. He was more than articulate.
That was part of your life.
Oh, a major part of my life. Yes. I don't think it's everybody who works in a maximum security prison with guards in 4 corners with guns.
No, that's not something everybody experiences.
No.
But it was pressure enough that, I mean, you're happy you came back to Richmond.
Oh, yes, this is my
in 60,
home. I love Richmond. Yes.
1960? And the
I
farm.
could live any place, but my roots are here.
Tell us about Richmond, because I know why I'm here and why it feels right. And you have certainly made differences. One of the reasons I wanted to redo the interview or do it again is Civic Hall hasn't been
Isn't
mentioned.
Civic Hall...
well, our
isn't
last
that an
show was
asset
there.
to the community?
It's amazing. And because I have the tremendous benefit of being in the capacity that I am at IU East, where I am telling students about what this community has to offer, and they're not all from the immediate community.
The benefit is also primarily for the students in IU East having you.
Well, thank you.
That's true.
But I pull them in and I say, don't be afraid. And I guess, you know, if you've seen any of these shows, I get on my soapbox often about why something like that is important to a community. But I continue every time I walk in there in amazement, having experienced the old building,
yes,
the way it was, to see that what it took to get it done and what you had to do with that.
Well, I lived it for 2 years, day in and day out. Yes, and there were things if I were ever to do it again, which I shall never do, I learned so much from it. So I would like to do something like that again, so that I could benefit from my from the flaws.
You are not a stranger to renovation projects. I've lived in several of your renovation projects.
You've lived, yes.
The Church on the Hill.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, yes. When your plan, he brought a Methodist church, Lutheran church, I'm not sure, from
Presbyterian, I think.
From
I don't
Liberty.
know. It doesn't make any difference. It was the architecture.
Yeah.
I didn't bring the soul.
And your plan for it was to be a retreat for arts and agriculture, which a lot of people would see as 2 distinctly different areas.
No. You know, it's
although I'm married to one of those arts and agricultural type people, so I don't find that funny at all.
They're the best kind. The roots are in the soil.
Right, right.
In reality, in nature.
Your plan didn't work for that church, though, did it? But
the building is saved.
It's beautiful.
And it's made. I put it there on the top of the hill because if you are in the Louvre and you look up these this marble staircase, there's the Winged Victory at Samothrace at the top. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was in awe of it. I just shivered. It weighed tons, of course, but I watched because I thought if I didn't, it would fly away. It would disappear.
Yeah.
It had this. Now that is art. To take all of those tons.
Oh, and it was a process. They cataloged it and coded them and put them back in place exactly where they were, didn't
So
they?
I wanted the church to have that feeling of maybe taking off from the hillside, perched there, ready for flight.
The view.
Flight in the soul.
The view out the front door to the west. Stunning.
Isn't it great?
Every season.
Yes.
It's stunning all
Yes.
over again. There must be people who think you're nuts.
That's their
who
problem,
say,
not
gee, Joe,
mine.
you're crazy. You know, you take these things on.
I lost quite a bit of money on that, and it's the best money I ever lost. Well, no, I've lost more money on other things.
We know about those other things.
That's neither here nor there.
You know I'm not going there.
No,
I'm
I know.
talk about
but
that.
I do love the church.
And you love that whole farm.
Yes.
I was,
Oh, yes, and then did a lot of, I think we did about 23 houses down in Old Richmond.
Yes, you did. One of which I lived in also.
Yes,
the church,
that's right.
The big church. What is
Oh,
it about
that's-
you and churches? That's kind of an irony, isn't it?
I don't know. We shouldn't really get into that, perhaps.
Tell
No,
me-
it's not an irony at all.
You had Belgian horses
Oh, yes.
out at the farm?
I call them my paying hobby. It paid the veterinarian. That's all.
That's it. And they were beautiful pets.
Oh,
and they
weren't
were
they beautiful?
Mike,
Weren't they?
the
Don't you
Belgian
remember-
horse.
didn't you know the Belgian?
I don't. You know what I do remember? The
What?
mean swan. You
Yeah.
had, you had mean
Yes,
swan
yes.
around the pond.
Yes, well, most any swan in the mating season
Oh, is that-
is mean.
The one that would attack a mower, like a riding mower.
Not only that, that's when I discovered the meaning of bird brain, because he attacked the mower and got a wing almost cut off. The veterinarian sewed it back on, came back. The vet said he couldn't keep him because the swan wouldn't eat or drink or anything. He was going to die. So brought him back to the pond. The first thing he did was chase the mower again. Could barely, the wing was flopping this way, just sewed on, and he chased him. That's bird brain for you.
Yeah, but that's a special
He was
swan.
protecting his babies.
Well, yeah.
The babies were way over there being eaten by snapping turtles.
Oh.
He was trying to keep me away from them. I was on the side of the
I was
babies.
going to say, you were the ally.
I
You were
know.
the
He didn't
friend.
know that. Bird brain, bird brain.
Right, right. They didn't know.
But beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Do you miss the farm? You're in such a beautiful
No, it's over and done
surrounding
with.
here.
I think it was a marvelous experience. I loved it while I was there. I do not live in the past.
You do get on with it, that's
I go
for sure.
on with things. That's
right.
over and done with.
I wonder if many people know what a gourmet chef you are. Many a time, either at the farm or
I
here.
just never know what that expression
Oh,
means.
well,
I like
let's put
to
it this
cook,
way.
and I like to
And it's
experiment
always
with things.
unusual stuff. Like
Well,
an
yes.
evening with Joe is here, taste this.
Yes, and if you don't like it, that's acceptable too.
Yeah, you're
I'll
fine
eat it.
about that.
I'll
You're
eat it.
fine about that.
But I've become almost a vegetarian. Almost.
Yeah.
I don't think of buying meat anymore.
Well, you've got so many
But
ideas.
I tell you, the morphine, something about morphine, in case you decide you want a pump next week. I believe that it affects the appetite. I don't get hungry. I don't care whether or not I drink a lot of skim milk.
Yeah.
I don't care whether or not I eat.
I've never cared about that, and it just.
And
my
it
mother
shows.
doesn't.
You look great.
My mother doesn't understand that. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I think, I haven't eaten yet today. I probably ought to do. Like today,
I don't remember what time. I don't know what time it is right now, but I had a piece of toast. I think around 5 this morning.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're busy. I'm
It's of
too
no
busy.
it's of no consequence, really.
right.
Although, if you're going to prepare something, make it something
Do it right.
special, and then prepare and serve it so that it has style and
That's-
panache and excitement.
Exactly.
And
That's
make
the
it,
other
make
thing.
it memorable.
The presentation of your.
Yes.
Of your
That's true of
things
almost everything. That's true of what you're doing right now, the presentation,
and how it works.
how you do it.
Yeah. You know, part of your recent good health, and I did say you look fabulous. You look fabulous. Is you're so
Your eyes need it.
You're so happy.
I'm very happy.
You're so happy.
I am happy.
Can you talk about that? Is there any?
What do you mean talk about?
One
Talk about
reason?
being happy?
Yeah, is
there are
there-
lots of reasons I'm happy. What are you trying to say?
I'm not. I'm just. I'm giving
Now,
you.
I
an
know you
opening.
well enough.
I'm
You
giving
are trying to say
Okay,
something. Say
okay,
it. Say it.
About a year ago, I did a show.
Yes.
At the Art Museum.
Yes.
That a friend of yours suggested.
Yes.
And I was scared to death because I didn't
Why?
know very much about art. And
Oh.
it was one of my best shows.
That was a Liz Quisgard
yeah,
show.
it was fascinating.
A wonderful woman and a great, and I would say great, probably qualifiedly, but is a very, very fine artist.
But Peg Goldberg was
Yes.
her agent?
Well, Peg is an art dealer,
Okay.
and she represents the Quisgard.
And you met her a couple of years ago?
I met Peg 2 years ago this January when she was showing at the Indiana Arts Museum, at the Arts something or other.
A show you went to.
Yes, a show I went to.
I mean, she admitted to me when I first met her, there was this.
This old man.
No, she didn't say that. There
No,
was
I was
this
in a
man
wheelchair
with a
at the time.
ponytail.
Yeah.
From across the room who just, washed over me. She said it was amazing. And you have even talked about...
Well, she is amazing.
Maybe you found your soulmate after all this time. You've never been married.
No, never been married.
You don't plan to? I don't know.
Why? I don't. I've never felt the need to marry or the desire. I've never wanted children. I like children, but it's very pleasant to be able to walk away from them or have them leave.
Yeah.
I think that on a 24-hour-a-day basis, that can become quite try. Yes.
Let me tell you.
Sure.
And the juggle of that in a career.
And I've never understood the drive, other than its biological, of wanting to produce children. I can understand wanting to rear them, wanting to educate them, and take care of them, nurture them, but not make them.
And you wouldn't even have to do all the work.
Any fool can make a child.
And you know, it's permanent. You know, it's forever.
It should be.
It's
it should be.
Forever.
Tragically, it isn't today.
I gave it a lot of thought. I have no regrets. I did it in a late part of my life once stuff had been established. That doesn't mean it's easy, and
of course
and
not.
that my children
nothing worthwhile is easy.
Understand when mommy's going to rehearsals or doing this. They think the TV thing is awfully cool, though. I have to admit, mom's on TV.
Yes.
But Peg has really had an effect on you.
Oh yes, she's a major part of my life.
Yeah, and the art.
And a very pleasant, very stimulating, very pleasant part of my life.
She's brilliant.
Yes, she is.
I find her to be
very
interesting. It was nice when I met her that there wasn't, it was like immediate, you know. It must have been maybe the same for you. You just, all of a sudden you're talking about things with this stranger.
Peg is herself.
Yeah. You wouldn't have it
She's
any
a very
other way.
real human being with flaws.
And you?
I'm real and I have lots of flaws, yes.
Interesting flaws, though.
Well, thank you.
You know, aren't you collaborating on a book with her?
No, she has written a book, and I am editing it.
Oh, okay.
And I am a hard taskmaster.
So it's not done yet?
It's done, but not to my satisfaction. And it is very hard. We can spend a full day on a page, and since it's about 700 or 800 pages, it takes a lot of days. It is the story of her life, but primarily the story of her involvement with the Kanakaria mosaics. She purchased in Switzerland mosaics, paid I think $1,200,000 or $300,000 for them, did all of the research to see that they were authentic, original, not stolen, went through IFAR, and brought them to this country, came through customs, declared them, of course, at the Getty Museum was interested. Sotheby's in New York and England wanted them. The Metropolitan Museum wanted them. She had them restored and then was sued by the government in Cyprus. And of course, there were two governments of Cyprus at the time. They wanted them back. And the Greek autocephalous, is that the right word? Church also wanted them. And they had been removed from Cyprus for over 20 years, as I recall, and nobody had ever said anything about them.
Well, exactly. They only wanted them now.
The idea is that they say that anything that belongs to a country belongs to it in perpetuity, and that museums don't have a right to the people to. Therefore, every museum in the world would be absolutely depopulated.
Right. You know, it's almost...
Including the Wayne County Museum.
Right.
Several major exhibits there would have to go back. The mummy would have to go back to Egypt, lots of things.
Speaking of
anyway,
museum.
she lost the case.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yes, she lost a great deal.
So this book is about that whole...
The book is all about it, the machinations of the law and the trial.
That'll be interesting when that comes out.
Oh, it's fascinating.
It's like sitting in a museum in here also, you know.
Oh, well, I've always liked art. I have things here that I purchased when I was in junior high school.
You had taste for it then, even
well,
then. I know lots of these
I knew
paintings
what
I've seen here a long time.
Well, the French paintings, I bought all of those in Paris, probably 1948, 49, I don't remember exactly when.
You're such a Renaissance man. You know. You are just, you have done so many things, and I know that you kind of downplay that. But what a life. It's not over yet.
I know, I live for the day.
You really do.
No, it isn't over.
You really do.
Today is, this is interesting. I find I don't know why you wanted to do this.
And you know, this is not unlike what you and I do a lot.
No.
I will come over here on my way home from Iowa
We just
East,
sit and talk.
and we sit and talk. And
But I like ideas.
That's why I wanted to do this.
I like talking about something, primarily ideas.
I've always said that I like conversations that start out with, what if we... And then it just goes on from there, because it's that exchange of ideas that get things done.
Yes.
Like Civic Hall, for example, and the things that you're working on.
Yes.
I have enjoyed this more than you can possibly know, and
Thank
I'm just
you.
glad it's on tape.
Thank you so much.
So that the rest of the public can know that Joe Longstreth I know. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
This has been wonderful. John's going to take you around the room a little bit, and we're going to hear some of Joe's harp music from the past. And I hope you've enjoyed this and gotten to know a little bit more about Joe Longstreth. Thanks for joining me. I'm Chris Rogan. Thanks for joining us on Focus on the Arts.
Chris Rogan would welcome your comments, suggestions, and opinions about Focus on the Arts. Please call her at 973-8595, voicemail box number 814. Or you can email your comments to Chris at CROGAN_IUE@AOL.com.
Chris Rogan's wardrobe supplied by The Secret Ingredient.